Part 3. Building a custom round stone fire pit. Let's continue installing the blocks. I had to include 2 smaller blocks in each row to ensure all the blocks overlapped the joints by at least 3 inches. I positioned the blocks and checked how they sat. The way they were sitting revealed where the high spots were on the blocks below. I traced the edges and drew reference marks to make it quicker, easier, and more accurate when installing them. The top surface on the colored blocks are wavy and varied in height. I marked all the high and low spots using my laser level. With a grinder and diamond blade, I ground down what was necessary. Even some of the light-colored blocks varied in thickness. Once I finished evening out the blocks, I removed any dust from all the block surfaces with a stiff bristle brush and blew them off using an air compressor. I applied plenty of landscape adhesive and set all the blocks. Determining where and how much the blocks needed modifying and grinding them down was part of the custom-made process. Now that the 3rd row is installed, the next step is to plan for the stone caps.
If you like it so far, subscribe.
This next part is really interesting. Let's mark the center point of the fire pit. I placed a block in the center of the pit and measured from the middle of the inside edges of the bottom blocks all around and marked the center point where all the marks intersected. I'm doing this so I can draw a perfect circle in the middle of the top row of the blocks. Bear with me. There's a method to my madness. I took an 8-foot-long 2x4 and drilled a 3/8-inch hole in the center of it. Okay, this is the cool part, so pay close attention. The 2x4 was placed across the top of the last row of blocks. Then, I set my laser level on top of it so the beam would shine directly through the center of the hole I drilled, and repositioned the 2x4 until the beam lined up with the center point I marked on the block below. Once a 2x4 was in position, I traced the edges on the blocks and made reference marks just in case it accidentally got bumped, so it could be repositioned easily. I also stacked a couple of blocks on each end to weigh it down. I needed a pivot point at the exact center of the fire pit at the height of the top of the blocks. So I wedged in a 3/8 drill bit in the hole I made and used it for my pivot point. To draw the circle, I took a scrap plywood strip, drilled a 3/8-inch hole in one end, and placed it over the drill bit at the pivot point. Then I measured the distance to the center of the block wall and marked the plywood. While holding a black marker against the mark I made on the plywood strip, I drew a perfect circle along the middle of the block wall. Come back for part 4, the final part. It includes using geometry to calculate the stone cap sizes and angles, why the drawing the circle is so beneficial, and making and installing the stone caps.
Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, share, and comment.